I wanted to talk about a made up mind. When I first heard about what I was going to do, when I first, I guess, knew that or got an inclination that I was supposed to do what I'm doing now, I was kind of hesitant about it. But as that year went, the first time that I heard about it, as the year went past and things started shifting in my life, I started understanding and coming to the realization that my life is bigger than what I've imagined it for, and it's somebody that is greater that is in control of it, and that I am going to move into that direction. I had just took it on myself and said, I'm gonna take that time to go and what's going on with that? I'm gonna take my time to go and do whatever it is necessary to fulfill that destiny and to fulfill that purpose, no matter what it took, And if it's not according to the divine will, then I'm going to let it go. I'll be able to let it go because it will break down. It won't come to me regardless, because um, I'm not willing to accept it. Now, during this journey, it was a lot of stuff. Some of the things that I thought went up failed. A lot of things that I didn't think was going to go through and didn't have any meaning to me getting to my breakthrough looked like it was worthless. Those were the times that or the instances or the situations that were the most valuable in my life. Um, after a while, I just made it in my mind. Like I said, I was gonna keep going no matter what and keep going. So I wanted to talk about a made up mind. A made up mind can make you stand up against all odds. A made up mind can make you overcome your fears of past hurts, past rejections, naysayers. Made up mind will be okay when people tell you no, or when people do you just down, dirt, rotten to the core, evil, mean for no reason. A made up mind will let you be at peace when there's chaos around. Um, I'm just saying this because it's a lot of stuff that I had to learn with having a made up mind, because I was like, well, maybe if it's not going right, then I need to change. I need to change what my mind is made up to. And I found out that I didn't. It was because I made up my mind that I was getting attacked. It was because I made up my mind that all this evilness was coming out to me. Because people have changed their mind on their made up minds, and they see that they once had a made up mind like me, and they got off the course really, really early, that they dropped the ball. So now they're seeing you come out, and either they're fearful, so they're attacking you, or they still have it in their mind that it's not possible because they didn't do it. So that was my I had this thought this morning before I went to work, because some of the things that I went through at work, some of the adversities, some of the things that I shouldn't even went through, but it's been a lot of things that I've gone through, in a lot of ways that people have treated me very harshly, very unjustly, very just not so friendly. But I still had to deal with it. I had to and not saying deal with it, I just had to accept what it was. I had to accept what it was and understand that in order for me to get what my mind is set on for, I have to keep my eyes on the prize and not look at what is happening all around me. I can't get consumed into it. I just have to be focused and determined on my goal. So that's what made me think about the made up mind. It makes me think about Jeremiah, when Jeremiah was thrown in a hole, and he could have been crying and moping that his relatives and everyone did him so dirty, but he didn't. He focused on what He was good at what his gifts were, and kept focused, you know. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Keep your mind made up. It's nothing wrong with having a made up mind. Even when things don't look the way that you planned it out to be, there will be people, places, and things that will not be suited for you once you make up your mind. See, when you don't have a mind made up, see, that's why I never wanted to. I will always be like, you know, be friends with everyone, or like to be very, very open, because when you're open, you don't have to get in depth with anything. You don't have to get in depth with anything. And because of that, you're able to freely roam, because you think about a child on the stove with the hot stove, okay? The child runs around the stove and has no respect and no regard for the stove, because the child is ignorant of the stove. Not to say that they're not, you know, they're dumb. Ignorant meaning not knowledgeable of what the stove can do for you. The baby doesn't know if the stove can cook for you, can give you food, doesn't know if the stove can burn you, all that. So, but an adult, you know, an adult will not act that way, you know, if they have a conscious mind and they're in their right state of mind, because over time they've learned that the stove is a good thing. It produces out fire, and fire is a good thing. Sometimes it warms you up, sometimes it cools you, it feeds you, it nourishes you, it preservates you, you know. If we didn't have fire, we couldn't get the sun. That's what, you know, big block. But being an adult and having that time also lets you know that the stove is dangerous. It causes danger. Okay, you can get burned by the stove. If the stove does not light and it turns on, the gas can be still going on, and it has this flammable gas that's going around that you cannot see. If you're not careful and you didn't turn it off properly and it's not igniting, if someone comes in there with something, a match, it can blow up the house, you know. So they use more precautions. An adult is not going to go and run around a stove who has a conscious mind. You know, there are some crazy people out there, and some people who can't, you know, control their actions because they haven't had developmental dysfunctions in their brain, you know. But if you have a conscious mind and you're an adult, you have enough sense and enough consciousness to understand that you have to use responsibility, and you have to be careful when you're dealing with stuff like that. And that's the same thing with a made-up mind. You know, a made-up mind understands, especially for me, I understood where I could not go if I wanted to get where I wanted to go. A made-up mind for me was a mature mind. You know, I was very childlike in some of my dealings, even though I was able to go to different places, experience very different things. A lot of doors opened up for me, but I didn't have the finesse or the edge. Well, I did have finesse to go and maneuver and make relationships, but I didn't understand the impact and the responsibility behind it. After having this situation and going through this, I understand that I was afforded so many luxuries and so many gifts that God gave me that I was taking advantage of it. So that's what my made up mind is. You know, my made up mind had me to look at all the things that I've been through, all the things, all the difficulties, the hardships, the good times, the bad times, and evaluate it and place it into a standpoint where it can be more used and more functionable, not only to me, but to the people that are surrounded by me. That is what my made up mind is, you know, became. That's what my made up mind was. And it also let me know that it is okay to say no, because in order to say yes to something, you have to say no. If you say yes to everything, you're saying no to all of it. That's just like somebody who is into sports and they want to go further in their career. They could be good at sports, but it's definitely imperative for you to pick one. Pick something that you really love and you really desire. Otherwise, you'll be led astray, and it'll be pulling at your hamstrings. It'll be pulling at your pulling at your heartstrings. You know. So, Yeah, have a made up mind. It is nothing wrong with having a made up mind. Having a made up mind is a true conscious mind, living true conscious, meaning that you have a destiny, you have a purpose, you having a goal towards something, you know. Um, and because you have that goal, um, and because you want to succeed at that goal and you want to accomplish that goal, you had to make choices. You had to make decisions and choices that might not be so comfortable to others or to yourself in order to get it accomplished, because you believe that your the goal or the solution is greater than anything that you may face. And that's how I felt about this whole journey. You know, if God told me to do something, I'm gonna do it, just regardless. You know, it might be where people look at you funny. It might be very uncomfortable. It was more uncomfortable to me than having the people, you know, people that I loved and cared about talk about me. It was uncomfortable for me. Not only with that, but most of all, was changing my own habits, because you don't know how much you get changed up by not having a made up mind. You know, being around a lot of people who smoke, and I was considered somebody who had asthma, but I remember every time I would get away from people who smoke, I would be fine. I wouldn't have to take the asthma medicine. So crazy, you know. And they was like, people would tell you, you know, birds of a feather flock together. You know, if you're gonna do it, eventually they're gonna, you know, if they're gonna do it, eventually you're gonna start smoking. And I was like, you know, I've been around people who smoked all my life. You know, it was something that I had to get comfort in. You know, I had to get conditioned to, because I didn't have any other outlets. You know, I had relatives that were over me who smoked, you know, so I had to get conditioned to it. It was no way to run out of it. But I didn't know that in my adult life. You know, I had it, you know, I had people around me, but I didn't really feel the need to even smoke. But I understand the conditioning behind it. I understand the setbacks that it had for me staying around it, you know, and coming out of it, and not, and saying, okay, this is my space. I'm entitled to not have this type of environment around me. You know, you're entitled to have yours, but since I've made up my mind to be healthy, and I made up my mind to go this route, and and you still want to go that route, I respect your route, but I understand that I put my route above yours. You know, I put mine because you put yours you know, above mine, and I need to take care of that. You know, and there's no harm in it. So that's what I had to understand. I also had to understand about the whole poverty spirit. You know, I noticed that I would be very comfortable, and the rest of my family would be struggling. Like, I'll be struggling a little bit, but then after a while, you'll be okay, you know. And I also noticed how I would be struggling, because I'm trying to help other people who are struggling, but they're not looking at their habits, and they don't understand. See, I was struggling because I didn't have the resources, and then the resources that I had for me, I was giving to other people when they had resources, and resources abound. You know, more resources than that they needed, that they could have saved, and they're, you know, either helping other people, or they're just not using it wisely. You know, whether they're using it on their personal use, extra drinking, extra food spending, giving it away, or just whatever it was not benefiting them, just like it wasn't benefiting me giving my money to them. So it was a lot of changes that I had to understand and I had to do. So yeah, that's what it is. That's what I learned about my made up mind. And if anyone tells you anything different, don't believe them. Usually they're trying to get you off course, or they haven't made up their mind, or they made up their mind to just sabotage you. There are some people who come out like that. I didn't really believe it, but it's some people that are very unhappy with their own selves, and they just want to take you out. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Hopefully something I've said or done will help you on your journey. Please stay tuned to Journey to Jerusalem. Thank you.